This isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by J Concepts. Once again, we're trying something new with the intro video and stuff like that, but want to have Brad and Cody on next here in a little bit, but want to do an opening segment and whatnot. So let's see, you got a couple people online, so thank you very much for coming on. Once again, this Saturday, October 26th, is the 4th annual Hall Brothers Classic, but it's going to be on in Eli Field and Monticello, Illinois, the same area that Horizon Fest happens. We're doing 2 rounds of racing and freestyle. Both of these trucks are going to be here. They're both J Concept trucks. One there is a Bigfoot wrap that was made by JB Scale Graphics. My little wrong area trophy here for our other people, and they did the flag and stuff, and I honestly thought this would look pretty cool if Bigfoot had white rims and like they did. The Runte theme kind of got me going there, so I did that one. And then so that's on the 2005 Ford F-250 that they have at jconcepts.net. Now this one is the Virginia Giant. I kind of made it more modern day, but it had the light bar on it. It is the same truck that is on the 84 ad, the 1984 Ford ad for jconcepts.net. The truck that you see with the Virginia Giant body on it, that's this truck right here. All I did was took the light bar off of it to make it more modernized to what the Virginia Giant is today. But if you go to jconcepts.net and check out, go to Crush This for 15% off, get your stuff. Still, you can get the quick shipping and come along over there to Monticello. Remember, it's $10 for the first truck, $5 after. And then we're going to have pizza and stuff like that for lunch and stuff like that too. So go check that out. October 26th, 7 o'clock is people can start rolling in. 9:30 we'll start everything. So we'll have some fun there. Also, Steve Jones, multitasking, Diecast, Downhill, Diecast Monster Truck Racing, Monster Truck Attitude on Facebook and YouTube. Even though it says Home with Thursday Night Thunder, it's done, but they're due this special events, the 90s classics, stuff like that, of these, it's kind of like fantasy football type deal. You put your name next to a truck and then you hope for the best. It's the same thing. You make a roster and you hope the players do good. It's kind of like that. So if you're into that stuff, go on Facebook, on YouTube, Monster Truck Attitude. It's pretty cool. Then also see this, it's hoodie weather. So we got our Crush This hoodies, also crew shirts. Contact me and Brad for these awesome hoodies that are made by 6B Apparel. And this hat, if you want to get this hat, go to our spreadshop.com and get a hat like this that has the big, bad, and blown. Different shirts, stuff like that. We're going to get new shirts coming out next year, our 10th anniversary. We're going big. We're doing some stuff here, so doing some changes and whatnot. So good, take a look at that. Bryce Kenny, a good friend of ours, he's having a book called Gears for Life, making the shift into your full potential. Go take a look at that at amazon.com. And also want to thank Cole Vinard, our guest, Coty, sorry. His good friend Cole Vinard has an organization called limslikeme.org. Go take a look at that. It helps out anyone that needs in the need. If you want more information, go to the website or info@limslikeme.org. So I'm going to get the two people here. One of them's a numbskull, one of them's a cool cat, and he did some cool designs, which I have to give a shout out to Brad. He did a pretty cool design for Joe Sylvester and his UTI Pro Light truck. So that's pretty cool stuff here. But we got our guest here too. But Brad, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, kind of been working with Joe a little bit on, as he's stepping away from monster trucks. He bought Ryan Pro Championship winning Pro Lights and been helping him kind of get some sponsor ideas to put together. So that's the first one, just kind of basic, just for a static display. But hopefully some of the designs that I've done with Joe come to fruition. And yeah, but it's our. How long has it been since we had you on, Cody? It's you were like
He's been one of the first ones.
Yeah, it was you and Jeff, one of our very first live episodes.
I want to say it was during COVID or the silly season. It's been a minute. I know that much.
Yeah, how you been, buddy?
I've been busy. I've been a little bit everywhere, and I appreciate you guys thinking of me and having me on and making me still feel like I'm somebody. I'm good.
Well, I saw you a lot. I thought I was going to see you a lot not last year, but you moved around a lot. Let's go back because, I guess it was cool that, Monster Jam relies on you to fill in big shoes to fill for, Tom. And then, you drove the Gravedigger and stuff like that. But at the beginning of the season, I know your mind was open for that East Tour Championship, and all that. But, when stuff comes about and needs to be filled in, man, I'm trying to get this question out right because it's in my head about that. The championship, did that affect you? But then again, having the company relying on you to fill in such big shoes to fill in two iconic trucks, did that kind of evened out everything for last year?
Yeah, man, it was not at all what obviously I thought the season would be. I had a pretty level head on Old Dragon, doing the arena stuff, trying to go toe for toe with Kristen and Armando and hang in there with those guys. And I feel like I start off the year pretty solid, and then it kind of peters out a little bit. And why that is, I don't know. Everybody gets comfortable, and Armando is certainly great at the skill stuff. So is Kristen. And then as the season went on, there were some changes. People got injured, and lots happened. And then when Keith Speller called and said, "Hey, man, we need to shift you around a little bit. Do you have any interest in? Are you willing to fill in for Tom and do some driving in the Max D truck?" I'm like, "Wow, that's not at all what I thought you were calling me about." And my first, both of you will probably appreciate this. My first question I asked, I'm like, "Can I drive the coilover truck? Can I drive the front motor truck? What is that? What's going on?" And he chuckled a little bit, and he didn't say no at first. So I was like, well, maybe there's a chance. So unfortunately, it didn't happen. But prior to all that happening, I got the call to go fill in for, I think it was either Tyler or Matt Cody. I don't know how it shook out. I think it was actually technically for Brandon Vincent to drive Gravedigger for the weekend in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I, of course, had no clue that was ever going to happen at the start of the year. Like I said, I was just focused on doing the Old Dragon thing. And then one thing led to another, and it was a wacky season for myself. But I made the best of it. I've always prided myself on whatever I drive, and made the best of it and tried to make it look good. I had to learn 3 different trucks within 3 weeks. So it wasn't easy. I didn't like the way the Max D truck drove. I didn't like the way the Gravedigger truck drove. And, I was comfortable with Dragon because that was the only thing I've driven the past 3 seasons or whatever. So, I knew what to expect from that chassis. And you get thrown in something else with 2 huge names. You're like, okay, I got to perform. It was tough, but I was up for the challenge and proud of it. It was cool.
Well, and I think them, having you fill in Max D and Gravedigger really shows that, you've put in the hard work over your career with Monster Jam. If people don't know, you started out as a technician, working with
Actually, a
Damon,
tech official.
a tech official. Then, you're a technician. You worked with Damon Bradshaw. Awesome last name, by the way. And then you got your chance to drive. It just shows how the company is just put a lot of faith in you. And what was it like that moment you got the call to drive Max D? Was it like, okay, I've grown up watching Tom, now I get to step into his shoes with that name? Like, how were you feeling when you got that call, and then that first weekend you filled in? How was that all for you?
It was honestly, it was pretty surreal. Like I said, I wasn't expecting it, and then when I did get the call, it was from Speller and Tom both, and it was almost as if like the whole sensation of getting to do what I do, drive monster trucks, kind of like it kind of rekindled that fire. It humbled me. I'm like, wow, I get to drive this. Like it was a appreciation type feeling, and it was great. And Tom had good things to say. He's like, just go do your thing. You don't have to try to be anybody you're not. You don't have to try to be me. And I just did my own thing. And the first weekend out was, I think, Syracuse. And I think I had driven that chassis or one similar, the smaller cage meant for a Max D truck. I think I tested one or something a while back. And man, I'm 6'2", so it's a little cumbersome for me to literally sit my butt on the floorboard of that, because I can't have my normal seat riser because of the shorter cage for that body. So it was difficult to get comfortable. It was a difficult visibility, but Blake Granger, that was his truck. He's about the same height as me, so I don't know how he does it. It's uncomfortable, but towards the end, I got a little more used to it. And I remember at Syracuse, I hadn't been on a big track in a while, and we did practice, and they let me go a few rounds, just to get used to it and used to the track. And I actually did okay. And Tyler was like, "Wow, you're a lot faster than I thought you would be." I'm like, "This thing feels like it's not going anywhere." I don't think it had the right gear in it. I think it still had some sort of Rena gear in it, but definitely humbling to say you drove of all times, given the time this year. Max, Tom's retirement tour and getting to fill in for him, and all things considered, having all those things to fill in for, it was a lot. But like I said, I'm most proud.
We're talking about a little bit about this filling in stuff during the COVID pandemic. I mean, another legendary truck you got a chance to fill in was Samson, and Gravedigger, Max D, Samson. It seemed like you got really comfortable really fast with the Samson monster truck. The technology on that truck is, every single time they have a chance, they keep on updating that thing. Test, it's the R&D truck, whatever parts that need to go on to the masses, the Mahal Brothers, Bigfoot, any truck company or monster truck team around the world, normally they will test it first before they distribute it, and that truck will get it. That's another humbling experience for you, to get a chance to fill in for Ricky and Dan, and that legendary truck. You finally drove a Hemi, and when we talked, we didn't get a chance to talk about that because it was prior to it, but you got your shot. You drove some throwdown shows, stuff like that. But how was that feeling and humbling experience to drive that truck?
Again, it was just as humbling. It was at that time, it was a little weird time for the whole industry. So I've known Dan for a long time. I've known Ricky for a long time. We were roommates when we did North Carolina shop work together, and we all lived with Ryan. We lived with Zimmer, so we all have similar roots and appreciation for what we do. And then Ricky and Dan called and said, "Hey, can you do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm free game. I'm a free agent. Sign me up." And of course, who's going to say no to drive, Dan's stuff? He's got the ultimate. It's like saying to go and drive for Richard Petty, or you go and drive for John Force or something like that. So to say that I have driven for Dan is again is humbling. So that truck, man, as you guys know, it's the truck of all. It's the truck in the industry. It's top of the line. I remember it just steered so nice. It landed exceptionally well. Just everything about it, from their hauler to the way they operate to just everything is, in my eyes, how everything should be done. But everybody has their own way of doing things. But to answer your question about how that thing performed, uh, the landing was incredible. I couldn't believe it. Even Chuck Palkin was there because he wanted to see, what my thoughts were on it. And as soon as I got done, he was like, "That's how they're supposed to land." I was like, "Yeah, I don't even feel like I need. I felt like I didn't even need to be belted in. Like flat belts would have sufficed, and I would have been fine." But the power was a bit deceiving. I was kind of surprised. I won't say disappointed, but it definitely did not have the. It had torque. I won't say it didn't have torque, but it felt like the power band was much higher in the RPM range versus standard Chevrolet blown alcohol Chevrolet type stuff, where it seems like it's really snappy all over the board. Whereas the Hemi, I was like, okay, one Mississippi, two Mississippi, here comes the power, and it was a drag race track there, and you were able to easily catch whoever was in the other lane, regardless of what motor they had. So I was impressed. Like I said, the suspension man he's got some secrets in that truck that I don't think he's willing to give up, and I know what it is, but I'm not willing to give it up. But it works exceptionally well.
And before you ask your one question, Mike, one question for you is, I don't know with Dan's truck. I know with our truck, you have to bump start it. Did you have to do that with Dan's too? Was that a little getting used to, as the bump start and then start with the aircraft starter that we have?
Absolutely, and as well as I do, that whole engine back there behind you, that's a monster, and it is not cheap. So you're like feathering the starter button. You're like, oh god, be nice, please engage. But yeah, you can kind of feel it. There's a definite engagement, and you can kind of feel it. You can almost kind of feel it like in your spine. You're strapped in the truck,
and then that knocking sound, that thunk, and you're like,
yeah,
okay,
that solid thud. You're like, okay, now we're good. But yeah, different. Have to have a little more patience, and definitely have to know what you're doing. Anybody can get in here to drive these things, but you just got to have that little more knowledge of, okay, be patient because I have this type of starter in here. I need a little more heat in this thing, or not as much heat in this thing. So it was. I was smiling grinning from ear to ear driving that thing, just because.
I was about to say, didn't you win in Ohio too?
Yeah, I beat. I think I beat Corey Snyder in the final, and it was close. It was a good race.
And huge shout out to the Samson Patrick Enterprises team for what they're doing on their social media. By the way, they have posted some amazing videos. A lot of stuff like Monster Truck Challenge stuff I've never seen, and I can't wait to, if they have any footage like home video from the Penda era. I know there's so many of us nerds that are just gonna geek out over that.
Well, they did post the video
not long ago, and I think it's him behind all that. Just trying it out and seeing what the YouTube's about, and he's doing a great job.
I was about to say, I think they posted Brad Bloomsburg 95 when he did the sub 5 second run, and on that Friday, they have video of that on their YouTube channel.
Well, I know they've taken some of the old TNT footage and uploaded it as well. So, but even just there was one video, then Dan was racing Bounty Hunter. I forget what of it. It was a Monster Truck Challenge event, and just hearing both of those trucks on the line taking off at the same time, that would have shooken the whole damn racetrack, because Cretin at that point was probably pushing 2,000 plus out of those. I think he was running Pontiac engines at that point. And then
well, whatever it is, it was pretty cool videos.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But, shout out to them and everything they do. So, once again, we were talking about, people that, the seat fill in and stuff like that. But you also have some pretty cool, knowledgeable legends that helped you along the way as crew people. and one of them was Mr. Gene Patterson. And I know I told you ahead of time about this, but I have seen him helping you and Jeff when you guys were the Monster Energy Group in St. Louis and different places and stuff like that. But with you being behind the wheel and also and being Gene, overlooking stuff, he'll visualize and see what's going on, and then before you know it, he sees something that you're going, oh, what are you talking about? Then you realize about it. Was there any advice? What was really important advice that Gene gave you?
I love having Gene come out to any and all events. It's easy for him to come to the Midwest stuff. I think the last time I saw Gene was last summer when I drove Toro. Was at Arrowhead Stadium. What city was that?
Kansas City.
Kansas City. Yeah, he was there. He lives not too far, and he came out. But I've always had Gene come out to St. Louis. I think Indianapolis he came to a few times. And he's always very humble. He'll share driving tips. He'll share, mechanical tips. He'll do it all. But he's always told me, we're both like-minded as far as being diehard racers, and he's always just said, pay attention to your own race. Don't worry about the other guy. And that's every racer's mentality, regardless of what you're racing. That's what it should be. And I think about that often. And of course, I always think of old Gene about that. So I appreciate that. And for him sharing that with me, because every time I line up, the only time I think about the other guy is if you ever watch me, if you ever pay attention, I don't like staging first. I don't care who it is. I'd rather build the heat than you go first, and I'll just sit there. I'll wait on you. Ask John Gordon about that one.
It's kind of like a saying that Warren Johnson had. It's like 50 Nationals, 94. I don't have to stage first or last. I'll stage when I'm ready. That's
Fred Schaefer was the same way.
Oh, I couldn't imagine. I especially with Fred. I feel like he wanted to have a lot of heat in that motor by the time he made a pass.
Yeah, and it's not really me just being that way. It's just mentally, I'm like, okay, he's going to go first. I'll bump in, and we're going. It's just what I'm used to, and that's where I'm comfortable at. I really don't think a whole lot of other people do think that way. So maybe I use it to my advantage. I don't know.
I've noticed doing that in drag racing and stuff like that I try to stage last also, except for the one time in Champaign when I was waiting on Mark, but he went ahead too, but that was a good time. But that was another person also that you had a chance to race with during the first quarter was Mark Hall. He raced with Dan, Tom and all of them. And, that was that opportunity also to race with them. I think you also was with them in the 2018 Stadium Series too, I believe.
Yep.
So you have seen him quite a few times, actually.
Yeah, I always have had a ton of respect for Tim and Mark both, and all you guys. I think you guys do a great job and represent the brand exceptionally well. For my goodness, how long they've had the Ram partnership for?
Since 2002.
Man, there's a reason for that. They do a great job with it. But getting to compete with them, yeah, it's cool. I can always tell Mark appreciated it too, because I feel like maybe he ran a little harder. I don't know. I like to think he did anyway.
You guys' close races were always a camera, was always a photo finish. So I knew that. Like it was, they always went back and reviewed tapes and stuff like that. Really between you two. I think one race that was really good. I think it was one time in Allentown this year. And you guys, it was a semifinal race and it was really, really close.
Yep. I love racing those guys. You can always hear their motor over ours.
So, let's go back to 2022. Since we've talked to you, you've competed at a couple more world finals. I want to go to the 2022 because that event, I feel like, was such a special event because of the track layout. You were the second fastest qualifier heading into the racing bracket. Talk about, what your guys' thoughts when they decided to do the over-under track and just your thoughts on how that whole racing bracket went, even just to the final round, because that was absolutely crazy when that happened.
Yeah. So, okay, help me back up. 22 was Orlando in the year it rained, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I thought I had qualifying in the bag. I'm like, okay, I'm going to throw one down. Let's see if it sticks. And I felt really good about it. And I was, you know, driving the 5 mile trip back to the pit area that they had set up for us. I was unstrapping and I was on the headset with my crew at the time, and I was like, "Man, what's the time? What was the time?" He's like, "Just wait till you get parked. You'll be satisfied." I'm like, "Oh, it's got to be good." So I parked and immediately hopped out. And Brett Crawford had a dry erase board with all the times listed, and it was like a second faster. And I was like, "Got it. That's got to stay." And then of course Tom goes out there and lays one down. I'm like, I couldn't have drove it any harder. I don't know what he's doing differently. So, but then they threw the Mother Nature threw the curveball on everybody, and there's nothing you can do about that. I knew my game was shot from there. I knew I could drive the track well. I just didn't think I would go rounds. I was like, I'll get put out. And there's guys that drive a little more calm than I do, and that's what was going to win the race until obviously the final was nothing of that case, and it, it was whack. And I remember that would be a pretty cool final round. I had the most amazing view from I was standing in the tunnel, far back, of course, standing in a tunnel that was like in line with the over under jump. And when Ryan committed completely sideways to try to make the upcoming turn, that would be the picture of all pictures. If I could have captured that moment, just the blue headlights and the rain and the mud flinging, it was unbelievable. And I couldn't see what happened once he landed. I was like, well, I can't step out there to see it. The crowd was going nuts. You see Brandon going backwards or something. It was crazy.
That range show was pretty crazy and stuff like that. And we got a few fan people that are asking questions, and we're gonna start off with an Instagram. Uh, let's go here. Jessica Dial was asking, "What's your favorite stadium or arena?"
Oh man, well, we do so many, and I've done quite a few. There, it's hard to pick one, but of course, I'm gonna be cliche and say my favorite stadium is probably New Orleans, the Superdome, just because one, the history within the industry of it, the history for myself there, that's home. Um, it's just a massive building, man, and the people, New Orleans, Louisiana folks, they get rowdy. That place gets loud. It's always had some really tricky dirt to operate with and gain control of, and I've always felt like I've been pretty successful there, except for my rookie year. I got put out first round. Chad Singler took me out. And I had a crazy save just because it was the dirt. It looked dramatic. I'm like, man, I'm just trying to drive in a freaking straight line, and I can't because the dirt's sticky. And I rolled over first turn and freestyle there. So we're not going to talk about that. But for stadium, it's got to be New Orleans. St. Louis is another close second because that dirt is always the perfect loaminess. It's the perfect loam. And Anaheim's always been good. As far as arenas, old school again, like Freedom Hall, the dirt. It's dirt there. It's topsoil. It's perfect. It's a nice
That's
long
pulling dirt.
track. Yeah, it's perfect for what we do. Nice and loose. The ramps deteriorate after the first few trucks go in freestyle, but that just means you can hit it a little harder, and there's plenty of room to do so. But some of the bigger arenas, of course, anywhere that doesn't have dasher boards, I'm a fan of.
So this is a question. If I didn't ask this one from my buddy Brett, he kicked my butt. So shout out to all my buddies in the T-Ray server. It says, question for Cody: did you drive all the way to Syracuse to drive the truck, or did you fly? You seem very tired of the pit party. FYI, it was a pleasure meeting you at Syracuse and talking to you about all the trucks you've drove in the past.
Syracuse, no, I flew and I got my flight delayed, and yeah, no pressure, no stress, right? Driving the truck and not even fitted into the seat. My flight got canceled trying to get up there that Thursday. It was already pressed for time as that was. If I were to get in there Thursday, get up early Friday morning, go prep the truck, get the seat done, get the belts all fitted, move the pedals, move the controls, move the shifter, blah, blah, blah. Well, that flight got canceled due to weather. So I panicked, didn't sleep that night because what am I going to do? I got the biggest weekend of my career driving this truck and I'm not going to make it. Got the early flight out of Tampa, like 5 a.m. up there to Syracuse. I forgot where I connected to. Landed, went straight to the building to get fitted in the seat. They're already started practice without me, and I had to do my own thing after practice was over. So, yeah, to be honest, I was pretty tired. I was pretty whooped mentally, physically, everything.
Yeah,
Josh.
Yeah, you mentioned the practice, and yeah, our buddy Dig posted that there.
Yeah. Well, what did he say? I'm reading it now.
He says, in Syracuse, I forget the issue. I think it was at the throttle cable. We waited for Max D to get fixed so Cody can make a practice pass. All of us tech officials thought that Cody's run would have been the fastest time.
Oh yeah, yeah. So that would go back to when I did make the pass. It didn't have the appropriate gear. It had like a 17 in it or something. So it was tacked out the whole time. It felt like I'm like, is this all this thing's got? It's pretty disappointing. I'm just going around the turn like, okay, is it over yet? But I think what the throttle issue was with being that it's EFI now, you have a throttle position sensor and all sorts of sensors, and I don't think the throttle position sensor wasn't jiving with where I had physically moved the throttle pedal for myself. It wasn't really registering that. So you go to whack the throttle and it would give it like 2%. So we had to figure out why it wasn't syncing, and we finally got it. And I think I sat outside so long that there being cold, I think the injector hat actually did freeze. So that was another issue. We had to unfreeze that. It was a mess, but we finally got it figured out.
And we have some comments here before I do one more fan question here for you. And we have Bobo. He said one of the best crew guys I had in Element, Louisiana.
Yeah. Bobo.
And then also one more is Steve Thompson Jr., old Hurricane Force. Said Cody came a long way since I first met him. Once again, cool to see the guys in my generation out there kicking butt.
And, that's pretty cool. Yeah, both Bobo and Steven, man. Bobo and I worked together years and years ago in Carolina. I learned a lot from him. He was with George Valham for many years. We did a lot of Europe tours together, and we've always had a good time. And Bobo has just always been a down to earth, one of those good old boys. And to see him come up through the ranks and drive, and it was pretty cool. I remember him rolling over in Arlington one year. He was driving for Lagarde, I think, and they didn't have any crew. And he rolled over down in the corner, and they pulled him out to go do an interview. And I'm like, well, you don't have a crew guy. I'll jump in the truck and help him roll it over and drive it off the track. And Mike Wells was there, and he thanked me. He's like, thanks for helping the show. They'd been stuck there waiting for him to be done with his interview and blah, blah, blah. And we had a good time doing that a meet show back home at a rodeo arena with Bobo. And of course, Steven, I appreciate the comment, man. It's, we both come a long way. I'm proud of your accomplishments. You've always been a fast racer, and you got a good head on your shoulders, and definitely miss your brother out there with us. That was some good times for sure. And thanks for the comment, man. I appreciate it.
Now the question here is from Kurt Nagy. He said, how old were you when you first saw a monster truck, and what old school trucks were your favorite? Was there an old school truck when you were younger that if there was a show going on in New Orleans and maybe at the same time at a different place, but there was a truck there, you would go to that show instead of the other one?
Yeah, for sure, man. I think it was always Bigfoot. Jim Kramer, and I still think the guy is a legend, and I've only met him twice, maybe very briefly, but it was always the Bigfoot trucks. I remember, oh gosh, I was in diapers whenever we first went to the first event. So that had been, I was born in 85, so 85, 86, something like that. We got a bunch of home video vacations and stuff, and I always had the Matchbox Rolling Thunder truck wherever I went. That sucker was always in my hands more than anything else. That was my favorite toy. So to say those two trucks are probably some of my favorites. Yeah.
And then he has another question, and I hope I don't butcher the names of these places, okay? So don't kill me.
Yeah.
As a Canadian, okay? Question for Cody. As a Louisiana boy, do you prefer Cafe Beignet or Cafe Du Monde?
Oh, Cafe Du Monde, man. I haven't even heard of the other one. I don't even know what that is. I know what the beignet is, but Cafe Du Monde, hands down. And we were supposed to go there last weekend, as a matter of fact, my wife and I, for little family get together. But unfortunately, we had to cancel our trip due to the wonderful Hurricane Milton that we just had. But there'll be other times.
I didn't want to butcher the names of the places because my wife's a French teacher, and I know down there it's basically like in a way Quebec. You guys, there's people that speak French and people that speak English, so I didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah, you're good. Appreciate it.
And he said, Sean Green says, "Who's your go-to for
Boudin?"
Boudin.
Boudin. Yeah, he's a Louisiana guy. So my two go-to places at home are probably New News grocery store in Youngsville by my mom's house, or any of the best stops, Scott's. Yeah, probably my top two go-to places. I got plenty in the freezer. Don't get me wrong, man. I've always got Boudin on hand, ready to go.
So another question I have, let's take it to this year's World Finals. I was actually there in person, first time ever being at World Finals. It was an amazing event, especially the racing. Going into the event, a lot of us fans and other people in the industry were kind of like, oh, how's this going to work? Because we've seen the S track before, but not with the berms that the way they had it. But holy shit, like the racing was absolutely nuts.
Yes, it was.
How was that going into this event? And just your first thoughts of when they unveiled the racing layout and everything.
So it's two different things. When they unveiled it, with the graphic and the trucks running on the computer screen, I'm like, that'll be cool. But I have competed in that venue before, and that's going to be really tight. So, when I got there and I first saw the track in person, I was like, yeah, it's tighter than I thought it was going to be. And the initial track they set us up with, even what we practice on, wasn't even at all what they had for race day. They had to change it. They had to widen the berms. They had to give us some more room. Like, we couldn't even make the turns very good. So overnight they changed it. And of course that's what we had to qualify with. So it was like trying to relearn it all over again. But I think it was very cool. I loved the start, the big step up jump. You had to be smooth. You had to have some rhythm. It was certainly a challenge. But in my opinion, I really don't think it was very even. Not to toot my own horn, but like you see the fast guys and they were getting put out left and right easily. And I think there was a better lane than one or the other. And it is what it is. That's kind of always the case in racing. The good races are the best perfect tracks. And when you got a left and a right hand turn like that, it's not always going to be perfect. So it definitely made for some highlights. I think the final round was very cool. I think the race with Brianna and I was cool. I tried to play head games with her, and maybe I played head games with myself by switching lanes last minute like that. But I just went with what I knew, and I felt like it worked. I couldn't have drove it any harder. She outmotored me.
Well, you got the 2025 season ahead of you also on that too.
Yeah. Need to borrow one of your motors.
All right.
Wait a minute. Why does
one ready?
Try to make like valve covers something to look like a Chevy motor? Yeah. It's just like, okay, wait a minute. This thing has more of a thump in it than usual.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already when they take a look at where the spark plug placement's at, it's going to be a little bit different than what they normally would see.
And that final round there, that particular event, not knocking Zach. Zach is an exceptional driver, super talented, great equipment, but that big motor helped him right there at the last stretch when he passed Tristan. That was that huge motor. What do they have for fuel injection? Fuel
Tech. Yeah.
Man, that sucker sounds so good. And I remember hearing it all the way back in the tunnel. I was like, I think that's Zach. And of course he won. Big motor helped there.
Oh, it was crazy from the stands because I had a good spot. I could see the whole track, the finish line, starting line, and everything. And when we noticed Zach was ahead of Tristan, everybody in that stadium lost their minds because we're just like, what did we just witness?
Yeah.
Because I don't remember the last time an independent had won a racing championship. I think it's I don't even remember.
Is it Tim Creedon?
In 2019.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Cretan. So just to be able to be there and see that, and just like it was spectacular in my opinion.
I mean, all three of us
Yeah.
were there, Brad. So
Well, as for my first time being at a World Finals, that's what I meant. Like my first time being at a World Finals, like what a World Finals I could have went to.
I mean, for the
I think
first
it was
time
big.
you saw a racing one, like very good racing. Let me say that. Like, but it was weird, interesting because like the track was favored, with the racing side of it, I guess. I mean, always World Finals has always been the racing favored, you know what I mean, with the
Yeah.
long straightaways at Las Vegas, the
Yeah.
figure, the over and under in Orlando, stuff like that. But
Yeah.
people always talk about, afterwards the freestyle side. I I felt like this World Finals was kind of the first time that racing was above
Was the highlight. Yeah.
freestyle, was the highlight, was racing.
Yeah.
And but still the package that Monster Jam does, uh does awesome. I think there's like kind of a triple crown. One of them is, the Monster Jam event. The other one's is Charlotte Motor Speedway. That racetrack, the dirt track in Charlotte, I always thought was kind of a crown jewel of
Yeah.
the racing stuff. The jamborees are starting to grow back. They're starting to come back and stuff like that. So you're always gonna have that. The racing side is always gonna bring its head out. I mean, pop its head out once in a while, going, "Hey, what's up?" And in today's monster truck world and stuff like that. But you come around. People may forget, that you were the crew chief of John Seasock, who won 2 championships in 2007, 2008, racing championships and stuff like that. And then, you go ahead and, help out, got with Damon and
Yep.
won the freestyle championship in 09, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
won it in 2009. I
That's
wasn't
3 in
quite
a
with
row.
him yet. I wasn't with him yet. I was
Oh.
2009. I was working with Randy Moore for a little while. I had left Monster Jam for about a year, and I didn't go back until the end of 2009. Unfortunately, when Jesse passed that summer, um, Damon and Angela reached out to me and said, "Would you have any interest in coming back to Monster Jam? And if so, we can help you try to get the numbers right for you, and we would love to have you." I was like, "Man, about the only way I'm coming back is to work with you." Damon and I headed off years ago on one particular Europe tour. And I've always was a fan of his way back in his motocross days, and it was pretty cool to have him say, "Hey, I'd like to have you help me do this stuff." And here we are, years and years later. I'm still his crew guy on the off road team, so it's been fun. It's humbling to have him think highly of me, and of course I think very highly of him. So it's been fun.
And I think Damon at that time, driving Air Force, then in Monster Energy, I feel like he kind of changed the game somewhat of like things you could see in a truck doing. Him doing like the brake checks in the air, taking his motocross background. Yeah. I think he revolutionized a lot of what we see in freestyle with the insane air and a lot of that.
You hit the nail on the head, man. I've always said my top 3 best in my eye drivers, and of I guess you could say the modern monster truck is got to be Damon Bradshaw, Adam Anderson, Mark McDonald, Ryan Anderson. Those guys, man. Ryan was a few years later, just given his age, but man, those guys, that's where it was at. They changed the game completely.
I was about to say
setups and reading the truck and making the truck do stuff in preparation for something that's next, and just pretty cool.
I was about to say the 3 outside Ryan that you named all kind of was that generation, of drivers, and the cool thing is like, yeah, Damon had the background of motocross, but he still worked on stuff worked on the bikes and stuff like that, while Mark and Adam were crew guys and stuff like that went ahead and did that stuff, and I could see that with your driving style and Cole Bernard's driving style too, and how you guys do that stuff. And we always talk about the crew members and the crew guys. You're kind of becoming the last of a dying breed.
Yeah.
And
Things have certainly changed, haven't they?
yeah, and do you once in a while still get that itch to go help out with your guys and be like, hey, I can help out, and all that stuff? And
Oh man, all the time. As you know, I'm trying to get my shop going from home, and I've got some work lined up. I'm building a mega truck right now for a guy, and the shop is open to Monster Truck Shop. I'm not trying to take Josh's business, but a free plug, I guess, for myself. But man, I'm down to wrench on monster trucks at any time, and I'll never forget where it came from. I've got a lot of tools that have made me money throughout the years doing this stuff, so why not continue to do it? So.
One thing that I want to mention, going back when we were talking about, Damon, Adam, I feel like another one of those pivotal turning points was when Adam debuted that new chassis under Taz that year. That's another one of those moments where as soon as you've seen that truck debut and what he did at World Finals that year, I think he put a lot of people on notice with that truck and that chassis alone, because him and that were lethal in my opinion.
You talk about Adam and the King Coilover Taz chassis, right?
Yes. Yeah, when he debuted that in 08.
Yeah, I remember it vividly, man. They debuted it. We did a bunch of testing at the shop with it. I say we, I was not a very big part of it, but I was working up there at the time. And I was like, man, they're doing these off-road shocks and this stuff. And it's got a little shaft compared to what the standard Dan Patrick shock is and stuff. And they tested really well. And then we all had the very first show together. It was Houston. I was with John, and I remember the very first jump of Adam's freestyle. Every crew guy just kind of turned and looked at each other like, holy crap, that thing didn't even bounce. And Josh was grinning ear to ear, totally satisfied with his setup. And it was a game changer. It was like Bigfoot 8, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, we're changing everything again. Here we go. So now it's the staple of what's the norm today.
And the evolution to that point, prior to Taz, you had 19 and 20, Gravedigger 19 and Gravedigger 20.
Mm-hmm.
The evolution of that kind of low CG type, cradle type truck, and still the testing and everything like that. The Josh Garcia setups and Patrick setups and stuff like that. Those days, where, you like in the 2000, late 2000s, it gotta be some fun times.
Man, I feel like a broken record sometimes. Like, it's all I ever talk about, which it's my life. Monster trucks are my life. But some of the stuff we did back then is, everything from driving the things we did in the rig, going up and down the road, to things that we probably should not have done at displays with the race truck, and stuff like that. Which, it's just, there's a time and a place, and it's all in good fun. And just times certainly have changed. For the better, I guess. I'm not complaining by any means. Just times are different. But there was a lot to learn back then. The trucks weren't nearly as good as what they are today. You're constantly working on things, constantly breaking things, just because the technology was still evolving. It still is currently, but I feel like the talent level, of course, has gone sky high. I mean, look at what we're doing. Not a lot of people make mistakes anymore.
No. And like, you look at a lot of drivers, you look at the World Finals, you look at, it was Dalton Widener's first, major event like that. He had done the Battle School Bash, but like getting invited to World Finals was a big tip in the cap to that kid. Like, I remember playing rigs and rods with that kid, and now he threw down probably one of the best freestyles of the night, in my opinion. But like, it's so, like, you look at like this past weekend, Tim Jones's kid Trip, driving that beautiful, like, oh, shout out to Tim Jones and what he did for that Twisted
Yeah.
Addiction. Dude,
I must say that was pretty sick. That was pretty trick. I like that.
That was pretty cool. Honoring this crew guy and stuff like that with the
cool.
truck and stuff like that was pretty cool.
Be a sad day when he turns that thing upside down.
I know.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Teach. I was going to let Jess.
What is it?
I was going to let Jess.
Oh, okay. I was just seeing some more people talking here. Let's go with Dustin Parks was asking, you're definitely one of those guys that love seeing the drive, whether it was Dragon, Fast Metal, Samson, or Overkill Evolution. Have you ever been scared at the wheel of any truck?
No, but I will say I've been like intimidated, if I can go with that. And one particular instance was on the Australian tour we did years ago. It might have been 2018, maybe. I was driving the Monster Energy truck, and it was a brand new chassis actually we sent over there, and it didn't land. Man, that thing landed terribly. It was hurting me so bad every weekend, and that was the year Tom went and took his front motor truck, and they had him do the stunt jump, so they jumped like 5 or 6 trucks or whatever. And Tom might have been Adelaide. Tom crashed and knocked a tube out of the cage or something, and they were scrambling to get him back together to do this, do the remainder of freestyle and then the stunt jump and stuff like that. Driver's meeting, they had said that I was to be the backup the whole tour to do this stunt jump. I'm like, man, there's no way I'm doing this jump and walking away comfortably from this. And I was like, it's going to happen. They couldn't get Tom's truck fixed in time, and I was supposed to jump like 8 trucks, and there's like literally 50 feet of shutdown room. And I was like, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And I ended up getting on a skid steer and helping Josh Dyke bend and push bars to help Tom get stuff welded back in his truck so he can do it. And he ended up doing it. And I put my headstock back on because I knew Tom was going to crash, and I was going to help him get out of the truck, safety first, blah, blah, blah. Tom did crash. He cleared it and had like no room to slow his roll, so he literally had to crash and roll it into the dumpsters, the wall protection. And that was probably one time I was intimidated, but nothing ever happened anyway, so I'll say that.
One of your competitors on Arena West, Berto Trevino, says Arena West 2025, baby, let's go.
Which you will be on next week.
Yep, Berto will be on next week.
Never.
And then
I'm totally kidding. Totally kidding. Berto's a great guy. A lot of myself and him, he worked his way up through working with Mike Harper, who's a great guy. Then he was a tech official for Hot Rod for a while, and now he's doing some driving with Christensen, and he's cool, man. We've had a lot of heart-to-heart conversations in the past, and I'm glad to see him doing what he's doing, and he's doing a great job.
Oh, no.
Chuck Lang asking, how about Cody tell some of the stories of the Son of a Digger mega truck?
The Son of a Digger mega truck? Yeah, that thing was rowdy. I remember Ryan, I think I helped Ryan put the first blower motor in that truck, and it was silly powerful. Man, there's so many stories. I remember pulling the Willys mold out of the sea container that Ryan and Dennis and Adam and all those guys had for years, saving up for when it was, supposed to become to fruition a monster truck. We got the mold out of the sea container, had to cut it out and get it all built up for, what was going to become the monster truck. And so that was pretty cool. The Son of a Digger mud truck, that was always pretty cool. It was everybody knows it was the old Digger Street truck and had a lot of history underneath it, but yeah.
Man, there's some cool stories and stuff like that with it too. Yeah. I guess someone was talking about Atlanta 2014. How was, you get the chance, you're representing the second Monster Energy truck, and what do you if you remember back, what was your focus on that time behind the wheel of that truck? Just want to just go by round, show the people that are looking at you, hey, I can handle this, I can do what I need to do, and go from there.
Yeah, man, it was intimidating. I didn't know I was going to even drive until like going into that November, December. I had made the move down here to Florida from the North Carolina shop and started assembling two trucks. And I had no idea what trucks they would be. And then, like, I think it was like the week of the summit, I think, I was told that it was one of those was my own, and I was going to be driving, and I was going to be driving Monster Energy as a two truck operation with Damon. I'm like, okay, that's a lot to take in at once, but okay. So built that truck, and the other truck I was building simultaneously was the original Doomsday truck. So pretty cool little tidbit. But I did Birmingham, Alabama was an arena. Was my first event in 2014. And my wife came. My girlfriend at the time. I had a lot of family come out. Jeff, my brother-in-law, they were still doing Quad Wars at the time. They had that show, so it was a big gathering to have it um, at my debut. And I just remembered just try to go through the motions. Don't try to be a hero. And then the next week was my first stadium show, which you're talking about was that Atlanta, the Georgia Dome, and that place has always been rowdy. They've always sold it out. Lots of pressure. I think Dennis was there. Um, Neil was there, Ryan was there, and Randy Moore was there, and I had to go against him first round, and I did not want to lose to him, and I think I ended up losing because I overdrove the dang thing. And I remember freestyle, they just said stay off the backflip ramp, and the backflip ramp was right in the middle of the track. When they did dirt backflips, and of course, what do? I hit one jump once, go back, hit it again, and there was the backflip ramp, and I get stuck right in the middle of it. I'm like, oh, this is perfect, and they left it out there. I guess if anything, Monster Energy got a lot of notoriety that event because it was seen throughout everybody's freestyle run on the TV broadcast that night. So it did some good, but all the guys at the post show autograph session they made it known that I got stuck, and yeah, appreciate it.
One thing I wanted to mention to you, Cody, is I love the fact that you are such a fan of the sport, no matter still like all these years in it, and you're still a diehard fan. And I think that's very important. You look at a lot of the people coming up to this day, MJ Solorio, our good buddy Fernando Martinez, so many others, even Tim Hall, like so many other these young guys have such a love and respect for the sport. And I feel like that comes from guys like yourself and the many other drivers in that time period when you first started driving. And I wanted to mention that I love the respect you have for the sport and the history of it. I think that's very important.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I do. I'm I'm a history buff in general. I just love where things come from, and I love the meaning behind it. And it's just been a lifelong passion. I haven't always been involved my whole life. Obviously, growing up as a child, I'm not a second generation person in the industry. So growing up, I looked up to these old guys and these trucks and these larger than life, come to life things, and I don't know, just have a respect for it, and I obviously have an interest for it. So it's hard to shake. It's things have definitely changed, some for the better, some for the worse. Um, Not at all did I think the industry would go where it's going. I would have loved to have seen Penda take off or Pro and T take off, but there's a reason why it didn't. And it is what it is. It's no big deal. And here we are today, and I have no regret and very proud of what I've accomplished. And here's to
You know,
looking forward to what's next.
Shane England. So what's up, brother? A freaking
Shane,
stud in the house.
yeah,
That Kuka.
Shane's a good man. He works hard, man. He works offshore back home in Louisiana and all throughout the Gulf of Mexico, and big time oil field guy. I remember he and I used to help David Smith out quite a bit and the Basil brothers years ago, and Shane too is another guy I'll never forget where he came from. And it's been a minute since I've seen him, but his kid is no slouch. His kid is super fast and very talented.
The last thing I was gonna ask here was actually one last actually two more after Brad, but Keith Vault wants to know, how about your days at the Cajun Dome as club help?
Yep. And Keith used to yell at me because I would always peek my head around the corner to try to watch the final round drag race of Pablo and Tina Huffaker, or I was at Ryan Huffaker at the time, and he'd always yell at me to stand back, get behind him. But yeah, that's where I got my start, was helping, Keith and Kevin Mathis and his wife Cindy and oh man, Norm Glover and Bobby Cox. You guys remember Bobby Cox? Cheech, I'm sure you do. Those guys are always down
Yeah.
there. And Brian Barkle would always come to Lafayette, and I'd help him out and do what I can. Yeah,
Bobby Cox is still touring around.
I saw his name pop up somewhere. That dude's a trip.
One thing I wanted to bring up, there was a picture of when you had the F-150 body and you took some, this is at once, the legendary Mike Wales passed, you put an MW using the Monster Energy stickers. Yeah. That, I got to think, is one of the best tributes to, one of the, oh man, just, he was such an amazing person in the sport. And, talk about the influence that man had on you, and then talk about kind of that moment of when you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this. I don't care what people say. This is my tribute to such an amazing man.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to go out on a limb and do it. I did Jesse's initials on the Air Force body over the sponsorship body one year in Vegas. And I got some heat for that, but can't take it back now. Right. So, yeah, Mike Wales, man, God rest his soul. He helped me out tremendously, try to get to where I'm at today. And long before I was ever involved anyhow, I would always go to Vegas to the finals. And a couple of those years, I'd go by myself. My dad couldn't make it, or whoever couldn't make it. So I'd fly out there by myself, and I'd get a cheap hotel wherever. And, I would slowly get my foot in the door, and Mike Wales caught wind that I was there. I forget what year exactly that was, but he called me and he's like, "Hey, are you in Vegas? And are you staying at such and such?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's not a good place to stay. Well, I'm gonna check you out at your hotel. You can come crash with me until we get you another room. When Bill Jr. or somebody, Tony Farrell, comes into town, then I'll just have them get you a room on the com data and blah blah blah." So yeah, one of my first official jobs with Monster Jam, other than tech, was helping Mike Wales mark the parking lot in Vegas for all the haulers who had what pit space, and crashing on the hotel floor of his hotel. And yeah, he gave me another fun fact was I had a whole lot of interest in buying Bruce and Jamie's operation years ago, prior to I'm drawing a blank of who has it now.
Brandon Duro.
Yes. And Wales pulled me aside. He says, "Oh, I hear a little rumor. A birdie told me you had interest in buying an operation." I'm like, yeah, my family and I are thinking about it. So he's like, "Why don't you just hold off, because we have plans for you to drive sooner than later." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So that kind of shot that down for a while, and it is what it is today. But a whole lot of respect for Mike, for sure.
Now, there's always been this question. This is my I always say last one, but this one kind of popped in because you almost got yourself involved with the bad news. But another Florida truck that was really dear to your heart was Gunslinger Slinger Scott Hartsock, and probably a lot of fans noticed seeing that truck for sale. The trailer was bought by Jimmy Creedon and all them, but and other people have bought the other trucks that they have in the premises. But the thing is I think a lot of people may want to know is, they always tag you and Jeff of that truck. A lot of people love to see you guys, the ones that are handling the truck, and probably Scott's legacy. But the fans themselves, what, outside of probably, company driving, but, from you guys having the truck.
Yeah, there's a lot of history with Scott and I, and of course Jeff and Scott. Jeff was Scott's crew guy for a long time, and they, as you know, they live literally 15 minutes up the road from us, and anything those guys ever needed, Kathy and Scott, I went up there to wire the new RI in there when we got the new ignition radios years ago, or hey, Scott would call on a Friday night, hey, I'm frying up some fish. Why don't you guys come up? Or they would come down here. So we're just really good family friends outside the industry. And yeah, it's been brought up about myself acquiring it, or Jeff and I both acquiring it, and that's humbling, and I appreciate it and all. But I don't know how to say it. It's just I don't know that I want to be that involved. Like it's a big commitment. I mean, as you guys know, look what it takes to run this stuff. If they're not going up and down the roads, then they're not making money. So I just don't think I want to subject myself to get put in a financial situation like that. But you never know what could happen. I know it's still for sale. I know Kathy, asks me every now and then about a part or something, or what's this worth, or who's this guy inquiring about it? Do you know who this is? Before we get any further into some detail with it, but I'd love to have it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's quite humbling to have people think of me as a perfect fit for it. Even Ryan Anderson in Mexico City a couple weeks ago said that. He's like, the only way it would do well is if you had it. And so that's super humbling to hear. But as of right now, I'm fine where I'm at, and I think you guys would both agree. Let's run somebody else's truck for a while.
Oh, 100%. And as we wind down, is there any social media that people can follow you at? I know that they announced the new tour, and how any social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm most frequent on Instagram, which is my first and last name. I do have a Facebook page, and I think it kind of links together anyway. But and of course, my little business I got going on, CS Performance, it has a Facebook page as well as an Instagram page. And yeah, I love seeing all the messages. I get a ton of messages. A lot of them get left unread, and I apologize. But Instagram's where it's at.
We could probably put a link and stuff like that on the Facebook page on this podcast to show some love and stuff like that. But last question for me. If you noticed some social media that some people posted a cool 10 scale version of your Dragon truck, even with the little flamethrower. Did you get a chance to see that? And how do you think?
Yeah, is that the 3D printed body?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is trick, man. I love that. That's whoever's doing that did a bang up job. But I've actually got still got the body that I won the finals with in Orlando with my LMT, and I busted out the LMT today. Actually, it's the best exercise for our dog. She loves chasing that thing around the yard.
I bet. A good time, and also enjoys you with your hand and eye coordination, because one screw up, the dog's gonna get it.
Absolutely, she has. My bad, sorry, Daisy, but it's all in good fun.
I still need to get me one of them and test it out in the snow and see how it does.
Don't do that. No, that's how a lot of the axles get broken.
Okay. I just wanted to be like John Seesock doing donuts in that arena parking lot. Okay.
Well, that's perfectly fine until you go, okay, I want to hit this ramp, and then you accidentally put your finger forward and you hit that brake, and the front end hits that, and the plastic and the coldness goes, and before you know it, you have to go buy a new housing.
True. That was still that was still a badass moment though. Seesock ripping donuts and grinder in the snow. That was badass.
Yeah. And that photo of, I don't know if it was Tony Farrell's Blue Thunder, but Blue Thunder was also in the snow too. I don't know. Yeah. There's a photo of it too.
That was me, Bill Jr., Mike Wine, Tony Farrell, and Bucky. And Mike Wells and Andrew Polachko was taking the photos.
Oh yeah, the stories that Andrew has when he was taking photographs for like the Bloomsbury Jamboree and all sorts of the East Coast Monster Jam, Monster Truck shows is pretty cool. The history that Andrew has, if you ever picked his brain outside the business side of what he does, but as a fan, he's pretty cool.
Oh, he sends pictures probably once a week, just some old random photo from Nassau Coliseum or something, Bigfoot or something really random. But yeah, that snow shoot photo shoot we did with Blue Thunder was in the parking lot of the Philadelphia Spectrum after like a 5-show weekend. And Ford wanted that done, and like, hey, before you tire down, you got to hit this big snow embankment. And he hit it, and it came straight down and it got buried. We had to actually drag it out with an excavator and a chain. And it was a mess. We had to drag all kinds of snow out of the wheels just to tire the dang thing down. I'll never forget that.
How about you, Brad? What's your social media?
People can find me at The Only Monster Truck Canucker. Check out Bradshaw Designs. I'm on Instagram there as well. Created a new logo. And making a Bradshaw Designs Beam NG pack. I've showed Dan a couple of the teasers I've made for that. And I'm telling you, Dan, this right now, I'm doing a custom executioner for the pack. I decided that today. So I'm going to do a version of executioner on there. So any social media for you, Dan?
Dan Cheech Agosh on Facebook, MT_Dan Agosh 28 on Instagram. Also Dan Agosh 10 on TikTok. I just basically go check videos there, some cool stuff, but just give China their information. But outside of that, that's pretty much it. Cody, thank you for coming on once again. Good catching up and good having talk with you. Probably see you down the road here, maybe the World Finals and stuff like that. And next week we're gonna have Berto and from Team Throttle Monster and all that jazz. So that'd be pretty cool to talk to them. I think they're coming back from the Arizona State Fair and that big fiasco that they have there from, I think, All-Star Monster Truck, I think. But yeah. Brad, you want to close it off?
Yeah. As Dan says, sometimes get your pet spayed and neutered. Donate blood. It's very important. If I could, I would here, but there's no blood donation bank. And if you are struggling with mental health, please reach out to somebody. Your life is worth more than losing it. There's so many resources available, many hotlines. So reach out. You need to stay on this earth. We need you around and need you to go to more monster truck shows. So, if you're sad, do what I do. Put on Old School Penda. You'll be happy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And guys, until next week, keep the rubber side down and the shiny side up, everybody. Peace.